Hi there, welcome to Tony Tutorials. Let me just move myself into focus here. This is part one of Let's Develop an Opening Scene using Blender and Sibelius or any other open source notation software that you can get your hands on. Sibelius to me is a wonderful program. I have to pay for it. It cost me $350 when I was at the Algar School of Music learning my theory. But you kids have crafty ways of getting bits and pieces which I don't use, but it's up to you to use them. Now, Sibelius has its instruments and all kinds of good stuff for producing music, which we're going to go into in the next tutorial, and I hope you noticed my opening theme that was created so we could merge Sibelius with Blender. I wrote that theme, so there's no copyright issue from those old skinflints there up at Warner Brothers coming after me, suing me for 25 million and throwing me in Angola prison with all the riffraff. So try and write your own score, and we got a piece of wood and 6 strings where we start the melody, and we're going to put those little black things that are called dots into our Sibelius score and start working with music notation and harmony. But first of all, I thought we'd come into Sibelius and do the actual first tutorial of part 1 here in Sibelius, ready for our big pitch for Mr Spielberg. First thing you need obviously is an idea, what you're going to make your movie about, how you're going to present it, how you're going to do each scene, how you're going to write the opening scene. And don't forget, movies are made in sections. You can make the last piece first, or the middle piece last, or you can move it into the film editor. You edit your music, your movie and your music, which you obviously know because you're not all dunderheads out there. This particular piece of software, Sibelius, has not Sibelius, kids, it's old age, senility, it's creeping in here at the old folks home. What you got is a wonderful movie editor in here, which we'll go into a little later, but there is a gentleman out there by the name of Mikey Cowell, I believe his name is, not Simon Cowell, and Mikey Cowell, who gives about 12 different tutorials on how to use this piece of editing software within Blender, so we're not going to cover that. I'll try and give you the link once I've learned how to do links, which I haven't learned at the moment. Sorry to babble on, let's get on with the tutorial. Well, the first thing that I'm going to do in here is I'm going to just create a little mouse so you can see what buttons I'm pressing. It's quite important. Now I've gone grey on grey. It's absolutely dreadful. I usually work black on black, but using this blueberry camera with inside the program, it tends to make lines and bits and it looks pretty dreadful, so I've decided to go with the default, the grey on grey. You can change all your presets by coming up to here, going to File, going to User Preferences, and you'll see System, File, Themes, Add-ons, Input, Editing, Interface. Well, if I wanted to change black to black, I can go here and press that. It'll give me all the themes I need. If I want Science Lab, I can go there, but I don't want Science Lab in case the whole thing goes funny on me, so I'll stay with grey on the default Blender program. But the reason why I've come here is this: add-ons. You know what an add-on is? It adds a little more to your program, enhances it. So if you want to grow hair, you got an add-on. If you want your motion capture data and your skeleton to move, you use an add-on. And Blender has several add-ons, and you can go to blender.org, I believe, and download the add-ons that they've got and put them into your program to make life simpler when you're working. But this particular tutorial isn't to do with add-ons. It's just a case of press all your empty boxes with a tick, little bloke running up the road, press them all, and then go to Save User Preferences, and you've got them all saved. The next thing we'll do is go to File, and we've got this here, Auto Run Python Scripts, very important. Don't forget to click that, because if you go on to make human, which we will do to make a character, try and animate that character and lip sync that character. If you haven't got that running, that auto scripts, it won't lip sync. You won't be able to use the lip syncing because there's a fantastic add-on that we're going to use a bit later on in our opening scene. And what you do is you press that and you go to save user preferences, and we're out of there. Now hopefully my screen will stay clear, but it's tutorial instead of little marks and dots all coming up. I don't know why that happens, but it does. So we're on grey to grey. Right, so what are we looking at here? Because, whoa, we walk through our sound studio and I say to Mr. Spielberg, Mr. Spielberg, we got ourselves a big concrete block in the middle of the stage. And he says, hey, what's it got to do with me? You move it. Okay. So you call George and Harry, who comes around in a big old semi-truck, and they're contaminating the planet with gas and diesel and all that, and they get their forklift and move it off. And that's cost you $150 to $200. But in Blender, we can move that concrete block. It doesn't cost us a penny. And what you've got to do is like, you've got to right click, select. Let's just go down here and just activate that camera just to prove to you that right click does select. There you go, select. And we're going to right click this concrete block and select it. Now these arrows turn up here and move you up, move you down, move you that way, move you that way. So we know it's selected. Now I want to get rid of that concrete block. So what do? I come here to this toolbar menu. And it's got these different bits which we'll use a little later on as the tutorials progress. And what we'll do is we'll press the delete. A big X comes up with delete and we give that a good click. And now we've got no concrete block. And we've got no George and Harry. And we haven't lost 200 quid. So now we've got our sound stage, and it's empty. A couple of things. Let's move our sound stage around. That's with the middle button on your mouse, which I think came up on my little. There it is. Or you press your control button, middle button, and that'll pan you in and pan you out. Or you can press your shift button, and that'll make you go up and make you go down. So there you go with your mouse. We'll get a little more into that later. We have one lamp that the last production company have left us, and they've also been good enough to forget a camera. So we've got a camera and a lamp in our scene. Right, Mr. Spielberg, what we're going to start with. I've given you the opening score. Now we've got to write down some ideas. So what are we going to do? Well, the first thing, you have to have an idea if you're going to make a movie. You either get that from a book or you get it from your mind, but you've got to be very careful because of intellectual copyright. And don't forget that the world and these musicians and these lawyers and all this, they've been using intellectual copyright of other people that have been dead for the last 300 years. And I'll give you Bach, for instance. They've all been using Bach's music, his riffs, his counterpoint, but they can get away with it. But as soon as you do something like that, they're on you like a ton of bricks, and there you are. You're off to Angola prison because you can't pay the 20 million that they want, and they throw you in with all the riffraff, and that's the end of your life. So be careful of intellectual content, kids. Try and develop your own. And don't forget, I'm going to do a scene about a young lady called Charlie Darky Parker. She was a historical figure, and I think it's a great story to tell. I'm not going to go into the details of her life at the moment. We're just going to do the opening scene, and she's been dead for nearly over 150 years. They can't do me for copyright violation, which is fantastic. So you're free to go ahead and do that. So beware of intellectual copyright, otherwise they'll come down on you. And we don't want anybody coming down upon us. So, right, we've got the lamp and we've got the camera. Now what I want to do is start developing my ideas within Blender. Now I'm not going to do any animation in this tutorial. We'll do that in the next one. We'll just start maybe putting the plane in bits and pieces, slowly, because a lot of people in these tutorials, I've been done a lot of tutorials, they go so quick. Oh, press this here, go here, do subdivide here, press edit, do this, do that. And you're sitting there and you're looking at it like you're completely confused. You know, you got a vertex here, you got a mesh here, and I'll extrude this here, and we'll mirror that there, and we'll bring in subdivisions here, and we'll use it. And you think, Christ almighty, if you're going to try and teach somebody, teach them. Don't just how good you are, but try and pass that information slowly and logically to other people that don't understand. And that's the idea of these tutorials using music and using Blender. Now, I don't want to repeat myself. Blender is a wonderful piece of open source software. It was developed, I believe, somewhere in Europe. I think it was Swiss, maybe. And the gentleman, and then the company went bankrupt, and the gentleman bought it for $100,000 or €100,000, and he put it out onto the open market for people like me and you to use for free instead of spending thousands and thousands of pounds on Cinema 4D or Maya, which you can't use unless you're a student. And when you're a student, you got it for 3 years, and you use it for 3 years, but you can't use it commercially, so you can't put your work out there, and because they come and sue you. A lot of good nannies, because they expect you to learn the program, don't learn anything else, and go and buy Maya. Oh, fantastic! Thanks for the use of it, but no thanks, because I can't use it. With this open source software by Blender, you can use it commercially wherever you want. So that's fantastic. And the quality, maybe not as good. May is like being on the console of a spaceship. You've got all these bits and pieces, there's splines and spleens and splacks and spliffs and all this kind of stuff. And Blender is quite easy to use. It's friendly as three-dimensional software can be. Anyway, enough of this. Let's get a script editor moving. So I'm going to go here to this little concrete block. It says current editor type for this area, and I'm going to press it, and it's going to put up a menu for me. Oh, there's lots of stuff on this menu, but we don't need to do that at the moment because we're going to set up a little diary. So where we're going to go to text editor. Now this doesn't mean you're going to actually make text on the 3D screen. This is English text that you're going to write as if you're writing in a book, or you're writing on WordSoft, or whatever they call it, Word, Microsoft. You're just going to do basic dialogue within a text area. And we're going to press that. Oh, my 3D screen's gone. Oh no, what do you do? Oh, that's quite simple. Don't panic and shut down your computer and reboot it and all that. It's quite simple. What it's done is given you the whole area here in your 3D screen to give you text. But you don't want that. You want your 3D screen and you want your text, so you can see what you're doing side by side. You can show Mr. Spielberg, look, in my text, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing in my editor. So we'll come back to the editing program, go back to 3D screen, and there we go. Well, now Blender is very clever. It's saying to you, or I'm saying to you through Blender, we can have more than one screen. And each screen that you develop or you pop up is independent of the other screen. So I'll show you what I mean. That sounds a bit confusing. You've got this here with a couple of lines going at an angle. Now if I pull that across and then I put this here, I've got an identical screen. But I can do things in this screen by pressing these tags. I'm going to call them tags. Are they tags? I think they're tags. What I do to the left here will not affect the right screen. What I do to the right will not affect the left screen. So I can have an animation in here and I can work with different ideas in this screen without affecting this screen. I can do this 20 times if I wish in Blender. You can fit all the little screens into the size of your own screen. So this is a fantastic little tool to use. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop me up the top here, and I'm going to get myself a little bit of script. Now let me show you what I mean. Here we go, and there's my text editor. Bingo, we got some text, and there's on my taskbar, my viewports, whatever, and I'm going to create a text block. Now, this text block has just popped up here, so I'm going to left click to activate it. I'm going to press enter. And now I know that my text block is activated and I can write in my scene 1 ready to pitch, enter, to Mr. Spielberg. There we are. My scene 1 ready to pitch to Mr. Spielberg. Okay. Soundstage, lamp, camera, Mr. Spielberg. We forgot one thing. Another thing is so important. When you do a lot of these tutorials, they forget to tell you to do this, and it's one of the most logical things, and the thing that will confuse you, and it's one of the things that will annoying more than anything, you must save your work. To do this, we go to File, we go to Save As. We look at this here, Untitled Blend, because we've got no title to this, and what we're going to do is SCENE 1 ready to go. And that's all we've got, and we're going to save that as a Blender file. Now this will go into your document within your Blender file. We're not going to save outside the Blender file at the moment. We're going to save within the Blender file, but you saved it, and we're ready now to continue on with part 2 of our opening scene in Blender using Sibelius or your preference of open source software ready to pitch from Mr. S. So I hope you enjoyed this first lecture, kids, and I hope you continue to watch and subscribe. That'll be great if you'd subscribe. I need a few mates in the world here at the old folks home, and we'll go through musical notation and putting music into a video editor here in Blender. So see you soon, kids, and where's my mouse? There's my mouse. So you take care and stay out of trouble. See you next time.